YouTube, welcome back to my channel. I am Dr. Tommy Martin, and what I want to talk to you guys about today is studying for exams. Before we get to this video, I want you to know that you are greatly, greatly loved, and that you are wonderfully and beautifully created, and that you are capable of far more than you could ever imagine, even passing those exams. Let's get to it. Alright, so as you guys have known, over the past, 5 years, I have made a lot of videos. How to study for step 1, how to study for step 2 CK, how to crush the CS exam, and then how to study for step 3. But now, after passing all of those exams and doing well on those exams, the exams are not over. We still have more exams. So I am currently about to be studying for and preparing for my pediatric board exams and my internal medicine board exams. So what I want to share with you guys is how I'm going to be approaching studying for the biggest exam of my life. Now, I know every step of the way you're like, step 1, the biggest exam of my life. Step 2 CK, the biggest exam of my life. But now we're finally here where I am done with almost done with residency and will actually be studying for the biggest exam of my life. And let's talk about how we can do it. So as you guys know from my previous video, there's a couple standards that I keep in all of my studying. So one would be spaced repetition and active recall. So these are ways to memorize a large amount of information and make sure you do not forget it. So spaced repetition is where I'll pretty much have it set out to where I will be reviewing and viewing content in spaced intervals and making sure I come back to it. So I'll view it one time in 24 hours, I'll do a second pass of it within 72 hours, a third pass within about 96 hours, a fourth pass on the weekend, and then a fifth pass in about 2 weeks. And I do this to ensure that I'm going over information that maybe is hard for me to remember, or just that I have a tough time memorizing. And by doing these spaced repetitions, it's gonna make sure that you see this very frequently and make sure you memorize it. But you cannot just be going back and rereading all this information. So the second part of this is active recall, which I've talked about in my other videos, that every one of these passes you cannot just reread it, because anybody could do that, and that's not making sure you know it. But instead, having your notes closed, not looking at it, and recalling as much information as you possibly can, that's gonna help you know what you're forgetting and know what you know. And then so you could study the material that you do not know. So to recap, we're going to do spaced repetition of all the material, and we're going to be using active recall to actively be engaging in this material, making sure we're studying what we don't know and that we're remembering all the stuff that we do know and not letting it slip out either. So we're going to take those habits and those study tactics into the material that we're going to be using. So the second thing is, with any test that you have, you need one main resource. So for step 1, it was first aid. You had to have first aid. That was like your main resource. For step 2 CK, everyone was a little bit different on that. First aid wasn't quite as good, so it kind of depends on what resource you used for that. And then for me, for step 2 CK, I used online med ed and printed out all their notes. Well, then now we're to your board exams. You need one main resource, one main book, and for me, what I'm going to use is The Laughing Book, or Laughing Your Way to Passing the Boards. And why I'm using this book is because my beautiful wife did very well on her board exams. She used this book with a question bank and passed her boards and did very, very well. So this will be my primary book that I'll be using. And so I'll go through the sections, I'll read this material, make sure I know it, using my spaced repetition and active recall, and then we have to pair this with a question bank. And so that's what I want to share with you guys. There are a lot of question banks out there, and I'm primarily going to be utilizing 2 different question banks. So one that I want to share with you would be TrueLearn. I've been fortunate enough to partner with TrueLearn with this video to give you guys a discount if you guys want access to this question bank. All you have to do is use the link in the description here and the code DRTOMMY. But you guys can see here that TrueLearn even has a free trial. They have it where you can purchase their QBank for half a year, for a few months, whatever you need for however long you're going to be studying for your board. And they have over 1,300 questions that are very similar to the questions that we are going to be seeing on our board exams. The other amazing thing about TrueLearn is they have almost like a money back guarantee. And what that means is, if for some reason, which isn't going to happen, but if for some reason you do not pass your board exams, they will give you another QBank of equal value or number value in terms of finances to help you make sure that you pass them the next time. So if you guys are interested in checking out TrueLearn, make sure to use the link in the description and use code DRTOMMY for a discount. And you guys can see here an example of what the question looks like. And the question sims will be very similar to what they will be like on the board exams, and the content is very, very similar as well. The other QBank that I'm going to be using, because I have a lot of time between now and when I take them in October, would be MedStudy. So MedStudy is another resource, another question bank that I'll be using, and I'll be using both of them to get as many questions as possible. As you guys know, from our time taking exams, doing as many board-like questions as you can is very, very, very important. So again, let's recap of the things that I'm gonna be doing. So my study methods, I'm gonna be using active recall and spaced repetition. I will be using one main study resource that would be Laughing My Way to Passing the Boards, and this is the book that I'm gonna be annotating in, reviewing, doing my spaced repetitions with, and then a QBank. I'm gonna be using TrueLearn and MedStudy for my QBanks to make sure I pass my pediatric board exams. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, make sure to comment below and let me know. If you enjoyed this video or found it informative, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you do not miss any other videos. Before I go, I want you to know that you are greatly, greatly loved, and that you are wonderfully and beautifully created, and that you are capable of far more than you could ever imagine.